Welcome to the ISO Show, dispelling myths and sharing tips for success to improve your business with ISO standards, with your host, Mel Blackmore.
Hi, and welcome to the ISO Show. I'm Mel Blackmore, your host. Thanks very much for joining me today. Today we're actually going to be talking about management review. So management review is a requirement of pretty much all ISO mainstream standards, mainstream management system standards that is. So ISO 9001 for quality, ISO 14001 for environmental management, etc. They all have a requirement for management review. So the first two episodes, I'm going to be talking about management review and how it's really important to engage leadership and how to do it the right way in terms of planning, all the preparations, how to execute a management review meeting and reporting on it as well. So I'm going to be talking through some of the do's and don'ts in terms of best practice and just explaining a little bit more about what management review actually is and that it's not a tick box exercise that you copy and paste minutes off year after year. So I'm going to be explaining more about the purpose and the value that it brings. And then the third episode, which I'm really excited to broadcast, is going to be an interview with Rachel Churchman. So Rachel is a managing consultant here at Blackmores. If you listen to our podcast, you'll have heard her before talking about some of the standards like the business continuity standard and GDPR and other topics that she deals with. Now, she's going to be sharing with me some insights on how to totally kick the ass out of your management review, because I know that for some of you, you'll have management systems in place, you'll have had them in place for years, and to be quite frank, your management review might be getting a little bit tired, a little bit dull and boring, and maybe kind of lacking that drive and momentum with the leadership team. So we are going to be re-energising management review. If that is the case, because Rachel has just recently totally kicked the ass out of our management review process. So that was kind of one of the inspirations for recording this series of podcasts for you. But I thought we'd better start off with just talking about what management review actually is and how to get started with that if management review is new to you. So the first thing we're going to look at is, why is management review important? Well, ultimately, it enables the leadership team to take a step back from the day-to-day operations and take a holistic view on the performance of the business. Okay, so it is an awesome tool if done in the right way. Because what it does is it helps to demonstrate management commitment to business performance. It helps you to review against your objectives as a business. And also, it enables the leadership team to get a feel for how their customers perceive their organisation's performance as well, because done in the right way, you're going to be looking at the data in terms of customer feedback and many other aspects in terms of customers. So new customer acquisition, attrition, loyalty, how long your clients are staying with you for, and those sorts of things. Now, obviously, I'm cutting across a number of different standards here. Some of them are relevant to certain areas like quality, whereas others might be more on environmental management. But regardless of the standard, it enables you to review how your processes are performing across the business. It also looks not just about performance, but conformity as well. So what are you doing not so great at? Where are the non-conformities? What's the cost of poor quality? What are the costs of not recycling, not being energy efficient, etc.? So it's the eyes and ears of the business operation so that you can identify where the waste is ultimately. And from that, you can then make decisions on new objectives, amending objectives. So just because you've set out objectives possibly at the beginning of the year doesn't mean to say that you can adjust them and move them as your business changes. And talking about business changes, this is a good opportunity to get the leadership team to look at trends. Okay, so that's trends across your management systems. That could be security incidents or peaks in energy, for example. So it enables you to look objectively at performance and make decisions based on the data. And of course, no business is perfect. There will be non-conformities, and it's good for the leadership team to have complete transparency of that, and also on the corrective action that's been implemented and also any preventative measures as well. So, potentially turning this into a lessons learned type meeting as well, so that you can potentially change the trajectory of certain processes and performance if they're not performing particularly well. And periodically, it does give the leadership team an opportunity to review company policies. Are they still fit for purpose? So there are many different aspects, really, that management review can cover, and we'll come on to what's typically included in the next session. But ultimately, it's a way to be able to formally review the performance of your management system, which then enables the leadership team to be able to make informed decisions based on fact. So it's not a case of, I think, it's, well, let's look at the data, let's look at the evidence, okay, because that ultimately will help to drive continual improvement based on those facts. So going back to the standard, what does the standard actually say? Just reading from the standard now, it says that top management shall review the organisation's, whatever the management system is. So I'm looking at the environmental management one, for example. So environmental management system at planned intervals to ensure its continuing suitability, adequacy and effectiveness. I think for me personally, it's the effectiveness that's really important, because, we're all in business to be productive, to provide fantastic services, and to do that in a sustainable way and to reduce risk. So it's important that we've got the right tools in order to be able to evaluate the effectiveness of performance in those areas. So the standard actually makes it really easy for businesses to have the meeting, because it actually provides details of what should be included on the agenda. So it's not like you need to scratch your head and think, what are we going to include in a management review? When you look at any of the standards, it will have an inputs and outputs section. And so it makes it crystal clear exactly what should be on your agenda. So it's a bit of a cheat, really, but why not use it? Because, these standards have been created by industry leaders from across the globe. So, it's a great basis, I would say, for management review, but you don't need to restrict yourself to just those agenda items. And also you may find that some agenda items you review more regularly, like any issues, incidents or opportunities for improvement, whereas items on the agenda like reviewing an environmental policy, you don't need to do that every month. That could be once a year maybe. And objectives, you might tie that into a quarterly meeting that you already have within the business. You may have a leadership meeting once a quarter, or even every month if you're looking at, drilling down, review of KPIs and that sort of thing. So going back to the inputs then, so what the standard says on inputs, and I'm going to take this from the Environmental Standard 14001. So it says that the management review shall include consideration of the status of actions from previous management reviews. Well, obviously, if it's your first one, you don't need to worry about that. Then secondly, changes in external and internal issues that are relevant to the environmental management system. So external issues could be COVID, it could be the war in Ukraine. How are those sorts of things affecting access to your suppliers, your products? How could it affect the services that you deliver? How could it affect your employees, your work environment? So there are lots of different considerations there that it's useful to review periodically, which are things that are generally outside of your control, but they could have an impact on your business. Also looking at the needs and expectations of interested parties, including compliance obligations. So obviously these are the needs of your staff, your employees, any other regulatory bodies as well. And so it's important that you keep them on the agenda to review periodically to see how that could affect your services. In this case, for environmental management, we're looking at significant environmental aspects. So it may be that energy is the most significant environmental aspect, and with the price increase in energy, again, that's bringing in the external issues. How's that going to affect your business and profitability? Looking at the bottom line. The standard also expects you to look at risks and opportunities at that meeting, and also the extent to which your objectives are being achieved. So there isn't much point in having some objectives at the beginning of the year and then not looking at them until the end of the year. Really, you want to be able to keep reviewing those periodically so that you can evaluate how are you doing if you are actually on track for meeting your objectives. So that's where KPIs can be really useful. Also looking at trends, as I mentioned earlier. So these are trends in non-conformities and corrective action, monitoring and measurement of activities, fulfilment of compliance obligations. So that could be reviewing and updating your legal register, and carrying out legal audits as well. So that could be anything from GDPR to the Computer Misuse Act to WEEE regulations on disposing of electrical goods. So it's quite far-reaching now for many organisations, and it's important that the leadership team are kept abreast on compliance with those legal obligations. And of course, one of the key areas in management review is looking at results of internal audits as well. So looking at results of non-conformities and opportunities for improvement. And then just finally, pretty much all of the standards cover resources. So looking at adequacy of resources. So they could be people. Do you have enough people? Competent people, tech, the tools that you need to be able to operate. And also keeping abreast of any relevant communications concerning your interested parties, which could include complaints. So they're the inputs on one particular standard, but there is a lot of commonality there across many other standards. But the standard also, again, makes it really easy to understand what the outputs of that management review could look like. So in this particular case, it's outlining that the outputs shall include conclusions on the continuing suitability, adequacy and effectiveness of the, in this case, environmental management system, decisions related to continual improvement opportunities, decisions related to any need for change of the management system, including resources. So you can see that this meeting is critical in making decisions based on facts and evidence on your business performance. And then finally, actions. So yes, we've made a decision on X, Y, and Z. What's our action? So they should be noted in your management review, so that it's really clear on what the next steps are. And the other thing on outputs is looking at opportunities for improvement. Because as we know, that's what the standards are all about. So why not use this as a powerful vehicle to be able to formally put on record what your opportunities for improvement actually are from the leadership team? And also, what's the potential strategic implications of making those decisions as well? How does that align with your strategy? So the output of that review should be documented, and that's the type of evidence that your assessor will be expecting to see if this is the first time that you've done a management review and you're about to embark on an assessment for the first time. So that concludes this podcast for today. I just wanted to kind of set the scene really in terms of explaining what management review is, the purpose, the importance of it, and what the standard says. And obviously I just took a snapshot from one particular standard, but it's very similar wording in other ISO standards. So in the next episode, I'm going to be sharing with you how to plan and prepare for your management review. So we'll go through, that agenda again in a little bit more detail about facilitating the meeting, collating the data and finalising your report, and then obviously progressing with any actions as well. So I hope you found today's introduction to management review helpful. Obviously this is really for those that are new to management review, but we'll dive into actually executing a management review in the next episode. So just a short note, we have actually got a lot of training and information and templates on management review over in the ISOlogy Hub. So if you'd like to have a look, we've got a behind the scenes video which is on the ISOlogy Hub website, and that's www.isologyhub.com. So thanks once again for listening, and I look forward to catching you on the next ISO show.
Looking to use ISO standards to drive better business practice? Contact us at blackmoresuk.com to access further information and book your free 15-minute call.